One. Samara, thank you so much again for meeting me for the second meeting. It's good to see you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, let's just go ahead and dive right in, okay? So the first standard that we are focusing on is your learner development. And this was a good class for that, as you were reviewing a lot of important information from your last class, going over stuff that you've already done before, and then you're also adding new information to that. And so I think you did a really good job with that. The last video, your first video, I didn't get to see a lot of demonstrations or modeling from you. And so it was nice to see you modeling or demonstrating while you went through, and then moving on to like the more difficult aspects of strategy and whatnot. And then I also, you might not even really have thought through this, but I liked that you made note of some students, if you're still struggling on getting like your birdie over the net, that's what you need to focus on. Don't worry about the strategy right now, just work on reserving. And I liked that too, because I always think about me as a student with PE, and none of this would have been at my level. And so just being able to hear that it's okay to just keep practicing getting it over the net, I thought that was good.
Yeah.
So in general, you just have a really good rapport with your students. They know and like you. And so that's kind of clear through your class.
Thank you. Yeah, that's one thing I think I said it even last. I've worked a lot. I mean, I've known some of these kids I've known for a long time, but yeah, just building that rapport is something that I've always focused on. And so it's nice to see that it comes out in even just in a lesson.
I mean, and like, I think it helps that I know these kids pretty well too. And so like seeing how decently well they're participating and quiet, like that's all nice. And I know these kids, so I know that they're interested if they're going to be that like engaged. So that's nice. Standard 2, learning differences, part 1 was more just about differentiating for ELLs and special ed, and I said that you did a good job with that. One thing that, and I know I talked about this a lot before in the use of the whiteboard, which you did make use of towards the end, but I think that during your lecture part of classes, having it in the class for that, even if you're just moving the kids so they're facing the whiteboard, so you don't have to move the whiteboard around, that way you could just signpost what you're talking about, or even like start your class with, okay, today we're gonna do the stretch, which I know you didn't do, but like normally we're gonna do our stretch. We're gonna review what we've been talking about, and then we're gonna talk about strategy. You'll have practice time, then tournament, then cleanup. Just like that simple, it doesn't have to be very long, but that simple thing signpost to the ELLs, like what's going on. And then I kind of also noticed that you were looking at your clipboard that was on the floor a lot, which I'm guessing was to help you like know what you needed to talk about. But if it's on your whiteboard, it's bigger, and you don't have to look down. So it just saves you a little bit of time. And then for me, when I'm writing, because I do this for all of my classes, and I'm with my students for various classes, but I signpost each one. And so it reminds me when I'm writing it, and then when I'm going over it, it reminds me again. And so it helps me stay more on track.
To stay focused, makes sense.
Yeah. And then the kids like get on me if I miss something, or if I go out of order. They're like, no, we're supposed to do this first. I'm like, okay.
They're very quick to say exactly what you did wrong or whatever. So I understand that.
Always. And then, so, I mean, it's just a simple thing that can help with the ELLs. And then another thing that you could use it for during your like lecture time is just demonstrations or key points, or like you can draw a simple picture of like, okay, if I'm holding the racket this way, the ball is going to go this way, which seems obvious, but A, if they don't understand what you're saying, it's not obvious. And then B, if they're just not athletic, they just, like they're not thinking about it. So
makes sense.
I mean, that's just one way that I think could be helpful for your ELL specifically. And another thing that I noticed is the talking time is quite long before you start the demonstration. And so I don't know how you could do, well, I know how you could do this, but I don't know how it works with you. But you could do like a very short and precise, like 2 sentences of what you're
Yeah.
talking about, then demonstrate,
Okay.
then come back, review it, and then move on to the next one. Because sometimes you are talking while you're demonstrating.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that, it's more difficult to understand and to follow. And just being short and precise will be better
Yeah.
for the ELLs.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
of course,
that's good to know.
some students that like are following completely all the time and they just are eager to get on, but breaking it up will help the ones that have no idea what you're talking about because they don't understand, or just have no concept of sports, and so they need to be shown more than they need to hear.
Yeah.
Does that
I understand.
sense?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just little things.
Good.
But
Yeah, thank you.
as far as like valuing the students of the different ethnicities and all of that, I think you did outstanding. You create a positive classroom environment, all of that. The learners feel really valued. And another thing on that aspect that I thought was cool, which again, you might not even notice that you're doing, but there was like at least 3 different times when you were explaining scenarios. I think one was like a safety scenario, one was sportsmanship, and another one was using the racket like the correct way, not trying to get the side.
Yeah.
But each time when you explained that, you explained it, you said what the problem was, said what the solution was, and then you ended with like, but I know that's not going to be a problem for you guys. Like, you guys got this. I've noticed it in other classes. And even if that's true or not, just saying that is this little thing that gives the students like this little push of, teacher Brett believes in me. I'm going to make the good choice. Like, Justin, for instance, or William gets frustrated, and then he has this mini moment, like be like, oh, teacher Brett reminded me, and he knows that we're going to do a good job, and can just be this little bit of encouragement. So I thought that was really great.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I know you guys have no problem with it. I mean, I use that tool all the time with my kids. I'm like, I'm seeing the other classes. You guys are the best, but we're going to get better by
doing this. Yeah. I thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, and it is something that I didn't even necessarily realize that I do, but I mean, honestly, in that case, I was being very sincere. Is like, I really don't think they're going to have a problem, but I could see using that, whether that's the case or not, I could see myself using that one. But like, you guys will be fine, but in case, just remember,
the other grade 3s are.
It's not you guys. It's that's good.
And it's just this little like confidence boost. And they might not even necessarily realize that they're feeling it, but it's those like little sprinkles. And you did it at least 3 times. So it's like, it's a good tool that you have.
Thank you.
Learning environments. This was creating a safe, positive learning climate. Now, you do have a very safe, positive learning climate. And so I want to give you full points on this. But when I was looking at the rubric, this rubric is quite thorough. It says that the candidate collaborates with colleagues, students, and families to have appropriate communication channels.
Okay.
And so,
I understand.
You can tell me. So outstanding is collaborating with colleagues, students, and families. Proficient is students and families. And so then basic is collaborating with the students. And
so, are you, so you're asking me like, how do
you collaborate with families?
I mean, I do every week. I send out the weekly lesson playlist to kind of give the families a heads up on what the plan is for the coming week. I usually send it out either on Friday or Saturday for the following week, and so they will know the basics of what we're going to do in the following week, in the two class periods I see them. And then with colleagues, I do on occasion talk to the other PE teachers.
Good.
And I have observed one of the other teachers in our building actually, just was it a week or so ago. And so I do collaborate with them and just kind of see how his classroom management style is. And then, of course, I'm collaborating with the students on a regular basis.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's good. I just wasn't sure like how that played out, and it's not something you can really see in the video. So I wanted to talk about that. And one other just kind of note on that with collaborating with colleagues, there is this one part of the video, and it's so small, like we're focusing on you most of the time, but then it goes over to the TA, I think it's cartoon, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
she's sitting scrolling on her phone.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
exactly, of course. And this is not a Brett problem. This is something that happens all over in our building with a lot of the TAs. But I found, especially when I was doing ESL, if I talked to the TA that was in my classroom before class and told her exactly what I want her to be doing, they always did it. And so I wasn't having the same problems with TAs as the other teachers were, because I was actually giving them tasks.
Yeah.
And I really think that a lot of the TAs are really eager to help, but they are, you know, the culture, they're grang shy, they don't want to jump in, they don't want to embarrass themselves by doing something that you're going to be like, why did you do that? And so if you get very like explicit instructions, even if it's just, I want you to be walking around and watching the way that they're hitting, or you know, something like that, they will do it. And it's a tool that I feel like kind of doesn't get used very well in our building very much, because teachers aren't having those conversations. And it was just kind of a little thing that I thought we could talk about, especially since your TA, who you obviously do collaborate with, is filming.
So that's also, exactly.
Yeah, that's another option, is you could have cartoon film if you wanted to.
That's a good idea.
Get her off her phone, and then you have thrown ball. Yeah. Just it was just this tiny second that made me think like, this is what they're doing, and I don't even want to fault them. It's just that they don't know what to do.
Yeah, you know? That's fair. Yeah, so something to keep in mind. Yeah, I'll definitely. I could see having her film instead of doing other things. Yeah.
And then Thon Ba is free to participate, and I mean, she does a good job. I assume.
Yeah, she does for sure.
Okay, and then standard 3, it has the learner-centered classrooms, which you do a great job at that. You're establishing a learner-centered classroom. I liked that you had the option for if students don't want to participate with a partner or opponent, if they're not ready, then they can just hit against the wall or practice by themselves. I like that you had that option. I again thought, and you said before when we talked before, that the students are pretty good gauges of where they're at. But I also think that a lot of times 5th graders might not be as honest about where they're at. And so in a class where you had more time, you already mentioned like this was a really jam-packed, so it's not a very like time, you didn't have a lot of time, but you could do rotations where you split the class into 2 groups that you would already have decided, and one group is just practicing their serves while the other group is practicing with an opponent, and then you switch halfway through so that you can make sure that everybody is getting the extra serving time. But that's just an idea.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
And managing the learning environment, norms, procedures. I'm glad I saw your reflection, because the very first thing I thought through was like, where's the stretching routine? They always do that. So your reflection explained that, and totally makes sense. So I do think that you do a good job with your norms and procedures so students know what to do. I was really surprised, and maybe that was the editing, or maybe you're just like awesome at how quick they finished when you told them it was time, and cleaned up and lined up. It like happened so very naturally.
That actually there wasn't any like editing tricks there. It was just that actually is how they it's like, okay, put the stuff 2 rackets under each net and shuttlecock there, line up, and then they, for the most part, they do it.
And so that's awesome, and that just shows that you put in the time of teaching norms and procedures. And I think it's like little things like as a teacher that we take for granted, or don't recognize how much work we've put into that, because you know, that doesn't come naturally to kids. What's natural is they will keep playing because they want to keep playing, or they'll just drop their rackets and run. But like they just all stopped and they cleaned up, and I was really impressed with that.
Yeah, thank you.
And that is, I think, the main things that I've talked about. I've written all of what I've already said is written in your feedback, so there's no real surprises at all. And do you have any other questions or anything you want to talk about?
No, I mean, yeah, you kind of touched on everything I was sort of thinking, and so yeah, I appreciate your feedback about like I could especially see using the whiteboard for like my own points as well as giving,
Mhm.
especially thinking of the ELLs, and how to incorporate them and make sure that they're able to follow along. I think that's something I could see myself doing. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's yeah,
and because it's two-sided, you can have one side that is
yeah,
for more like extra
exactly,
routine, and the other side
yeah,
has your tournament schedule on
yeah,
there because you
yeah,
have to erase that.
yeah, yeah. No, that's good. I appreciate
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
All right.
So I don't know how we
Okay.
are on time, but
Yeah, yeah, I think we're good. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And it's good to see you. All right.
yeah, good to see you too.
Okay. All right.